Hi, Stampers. It's Pat Fairless with Fairless Stamp and Flair. You're probably surprised to see me today. I don't do very many videos other than those for Connect to Create. But as I was making today's card, which is a fun fold card, and I was trying to write up the tutorial for it, I figured out that it would probably be much easier to make a video, as I was having somewhat of a problematic time putting into words and explaining with pictures what you need to do. Now, no worries if you're a visual person who likes a tutorial in hand. I have created a tutorial. There will be a specific section of the tutorial for what's on the video today. This fun fold card is called a pop-up slider card, and it was the slider mechanism that I was having challenges with to figure out how to best explain that on the tutorial. So I'm going to put a link to this video in the tutorial so you will be able to follow along, and hopefully you'll find it helpful to actually have me show you how to do it as opposed to just reading and trying to interpret what I was trying to say. So let's go ahead and flip my camera down. Oh, I can't talk today. Camera down, and let's get started. Okay, so if you're coming from the blog, this video will be on YouTube, and I will have a link there for you. And there will be a link in the tutorial as well, which will take you to this video. This is the card you've seen. It's a cute little aspen from the aspen trees, perched in a tree, I think it's called. And the part I'm going to show you today is a surprise. When you open this up, this center part here pops open. So I'm going to close that and hold it at an angle, and maybe that will help you see it a little bit better. You see how the sentiment pops up. So what I'm going to be showing you today is the mechanism on how to do that. And I'm going to use some different colors. These colors, I used a conglomeration of retired colors, and I hoped that by making each piece in a different color, it would be easier to explain. So here's a card, not decorated, but with just the mechanism. And you can see this Bermuda Bay piece here opens and closes, or pops up and down as you open and close the card. So let me bring in, I already have my pieces cut for that. And this, I've tried to make the tutorial as easy to follow as possible. So the card base in the tutorial, not in the card, actual card, but is this color, Sahara Sand, and it's the same color in the tutorial. So I tried to make pieces, colors match. What I'm using for this, here's the Bermuda Bay piece, which I've called the pop-up sliding strip. This is actually your card base. And then we have a piece here that I call the support for the sliding strip. And the size of each of these will be in the tutorial. So I'm not going to cut them here today, but I am going to show you how to score them. So the card base is 11 by 5.5, and we are going to score it at 5.5. So let me bring in my Simply Score tool. You can use your cutter, trimmer. Just make sure you use the scoring blade, not the cutting blade. And since I tend to kind of get that mixed up sometimes, I really like to use my Simply Score tool. So this is just going to be scored at 5.5, just like a standard card base. So the card base is now 8.5 by 5.5. And we're going to give this a good crease. I think we'll do that later after I get everything scored first. Let's go ahead and just get everything scored. The second piece we're going to score is this Bermuda Bay piece that I called the pop-up sliding strip. That's the thing that makes your sentiment pop up. And this will be described here. And you can see we're going to score at 3 3/4, 5 1/4, 7, 7.5, and 9 1/4. And you probably can't see that here. I'm zoomed out quite a bit so that I can get this in my screen. But the first one is going to be scored at 3/4. The second one at 5 1/4. The next one at 7, 7 1/2, and 9 1/4. And I wanted to give you a little bit of tip about if you use the Simply Scored tool, a lot of people have trouble, I've noticed, staying in these tracks. And when I watch them do it, at least in my classes, they tend to want to hold their scoring tool like you would hold a pencil, and then they do their scoring. If that works great for you, great, don't change anything. But what I have found, if I grab this and I actually hold it like this in my hand, it's at a little bit of a lower angle to the Simply Scored tool, and it tends to stay in the track. Much better. It's worked much better for me if I hold it like this versus holding it like this. I think this way it's also at an angle slightly, which would tend to want to pull it out of the track, or if you hold it like this, you're lined right up in the track, and it just stays there, for me, so much better. So just a quick hint. And then the third piece we're going to score is this pale papaya piece here in the background, which I've called the support for the sliding strip. It basically holds the sliding strip and allows it to slide underneath it. And this is scored at 1/2 and 4 3/4, which is basically just a 1/2 inch from each side. So there's our 1/2, and here's our 4 3/4. And you can see that's just a 1/2 inch from this side. Okay. And that is all the scoring we have to do. So I'm going to put that away and bring my pieces back in. I'm going to give the card base a good burnish. And we're just going to set that aside. We're not going to use that right away. We're going to start with this piece here. And the next step, after we get done with our scoring, is to start adding tear and tape to these two pieces. So in the tutorial, I also have it shown where to add the tear and tape. It's these little white rectangles. So here on the slider strip, let's do that first. I have it right side up, which is the way I scored it: 3/4, 5 1/4, 7, 7 1/2, and 9 1/4. And you can see I want to have tear and tape here between the 7 and 7 1/2 score, and then here at the end. So let me get my tear and tape. And we're just going to lay this in here. Now you can tear it, it's called tear and tape, or if you prefer, you can cut it. Some people prefer to cut it, and that's fine. Either way works fine. You just want to make sure it's not hanging over the edge if you tear it. So if it is just a bit, then come back and trim it. So that's the only place you need tear and tape on this side. Now you're going to take this strip and you're going to flip it over. And you can see here on the tutorial, we're going to add 2 strips over here between the end and the 3/4 score on the back side. So I'm going to add these 2 over here. Okay, and that is all the tear and tape that we need on the sliding strip. Now we need the support strip, and we're going to put 1 piece on each end. Okay, now the next thing you do, we have all our score tape, tear and tape on it now, and we just want to burnish this good to make sure it's nicely adhered to your cardstock. sure I got this thing hanging out here just a bit. Snip that off. But that doesn't really matter. And we'll give these a good burnish to make sure it's well adhered. This one here in the middle is going to be the very last one you pull off. You're going to get your whole mechanism, your card decorated, all your decorations done before you pull that off. So don't pull that one off. Okay. So for this mechanism, like I said, here we need the card base. Turn off a little bit of that. We need the pop-up sliding strip. We need the support strip for the sliding strip. And we need some mechanism reinforcements. And these are just 1 inch by 5 1/4. In my sample, I made them white. Obviously, when you see the card, you can make them any color. You make any of these any color you want. So they blend into the background or however you choose to do it. But we're going to need all of those pieces, 5 pieces there, to make the mechanism. And so now here comes the steps of the mechanism. We finished the burnishing. The first thing we want to do, we're going to set the card base aside. We're not going to use that for a bit. We're going to work a little bit more on this piece. And the first thing we want to do is just kind of start to crease these a little bit over here. You don't need to work on them too much, just a little bit, because you're going to bend this over, and this is now what your piece should look like and where your tear and tape should be, okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this sliding strip and we're going to attach it to this support. And to do that, we're going to find approximately the center of this. You can just eyeball it. Doesn't need to be perfect. So we'll just eyeball it. And on your sliding strip, you're going to remove this backing from this tear and tape. Okay? And we'll just get rid of that. And then we're going to fold this piece back. Not towards the sticky, but away the sticky away. And we're going to take this and place it on the edge of the support. And burnish it so it's nicely stuck down. Okay, so now we have this T-shaped piece, like you see here in this image on the tutorial. Now we're going to take this and we're going to wrap this around our support so that it looks something. This is what it will look like. Okay, you see that? And that'll show you here in the tutorial. But that just basically, you just take this piece and you wrap it around the support. Okay, I hope you can see that. And it should look something like that. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to go get our card base. And we're going to lay this in the center vertically. This is on the back. Here's your card base, your front of your card. Open the front. Here's the back of your card, inside back. And you want to align this piece here with the fold. And you want to center it. Just kind of eyeball it again vertically. Okay? Remove the tear and tape off from these pieces. And you want to close this over onto the slider. And give it a good rub so that you're getting this tape. When you open it up, you'll see this flipped over. Assume you could probably see that. It kind of, it wants to flip with it, but you have this 3/4 score mark here that we scored, so just flip it back. Okay, and then give it a good burnish. And you can burnish it underneath as well, just to make sure your tape, tear and tape is nicely stuck, and give that a burnish. Okay, so fold this back on itself. Again, it's going to be like this. And now, this is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing. because if I close this, you can see how my slider mechanism opens. And you want to slide it and just let this piece pretty much go to where it wants to go, and then hold it in place and open your card back up. Now, can you see that's just sliding? It's folding. This was the 5 1/4 mark over here that you had scored. And if you close this and let this piece go where it wants to go, then your card will fold and close very nicely. Now just slip your finger under here and hold that in place, because now you know where you want this piece to be. Remove your tear and tape from the top. I do have my tape, my pick tool. And I should grab that. All my fingernails have been leaving me the last few weeks. And I'm going to take this while I'm still holding it in place, and I'm just going to flip this back. And I want to, right, without moving it, just line it up to the top. And of course the camera is right in my way, so I can't see that very well. But you want to fold that, take this one off, flip this one back, and adhere that down to the bottom edge, or just aligning to the bottom edge. Now give them a good burnish. Now you should be able, as we close this should close fine. If you have a gap, which I apparently moved it just a smidge, that's fine. If you have a gap like here, it just means when something moved. Just push it down and pick this up and just re-burnish that particular one. I got to tell you, I think I made several of these this weekend, last weekend, and I think I had 2 that came out perfectly where I had this piece creased. The others I all had to press down. So that's fine. If that happens, no worries. Your mechanism works just fine. Okay. Now the last thing to finish here, and I should have put tear and tape on here. That was where we needed some more tear and tape. I did miss that little step with the tear and tape. It's on the tutorial, no worries. I just didn't follow my own tutorial very well. You need some tear and tape at each end of these little support mechanisms. Should have done that back here at the step on the page where it shows you where to put the tear and tape. Right here, I do have these 2 pieces down here where it shows, yep, put a piece of tear and tape at each end of the strip, because now when you get to this point, all you need to do is remove that. And you're just going to lay it over the support mechanism. That's why I call it a reinforcement. Which is, it's 5 1/4. Your card is 5 1/2. So just kind of lay it and center it there. You want to make sure you only have adhesive out here. You don't have any in here, because you don't want it to hold this down too tight, because if you do, this will slide not well. Okay. So you're going to add one of those on the top and the bottom. And I'll show you the inside of the card. And there you go. Your mechanism now works just like the first one I showed you. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you as part of this mechanism tutorial. Here it's showing you All the other steps are here. But I thought maybe it would just be a little easier to be able to see the video. You will have a complete tutorial. I still need to add some pictures for the card in today's class. There are cutting instructions for the card front. Here's your supplies, the card front, of course, and I have an added section for the mechanism cutting instructions, and those are the 5 pieces that we just did. So those are the cutting dimensions and scoring dimensions. But you also have the diagrams to show you both the cutting. I will add those other 2 pieces, those support reinforcements down here, and your scoring, and then where the tear and tape goes. So there's a good complete written diagram or tutorial, but I hope the video kind of helps explain how this inside works. So you can see the front. The background here was made with a smooshing technique, which there is a Connect to Create video back in January. I also have that linked in the tutorial, so you can get to that, how to create that background. I'll be honest, when I did that, I had leftover pieces and I decided to use them because they were pretty, and I thought it meant pretty with this little bird. And then here you can see on those reinforcement strips, they were white in the mechanism on the one I just showed you. Here I used the same gray granite that I used as highlights for my mats here. And then I jazzed them up a bit with some designer series paper, so you make them a decorative element. So I hope you liked that. I hope that was helpful. Let me go back over here. And if you have any questions or something just doesn't make sense on how to do this, or you have troubles, please leave a comment in my blog and I will be sure to read those and respond. I am here to help, so I will answer any questions that I'm capable of answering, and I hope this was helpful. So have a great day, and I hope you'll try to make this fun fold pop-up sliding card. Have a good one.